We have noted our tendencies to make up stories about why someone else is behaving the way they are. We make these inferences about, oh, it's because of this, what happened, it's because this person had a bad day, or this person was really excited, got the good news. Okay. As human beings, we have a strong need to make sense of our experiences. In fact, this is rooted in our survival. If we really can't make up a narrative or a story of what's happening at that moment, that can actually spell the difference between life and death. For example, if you see a bush uh, moving around, but you don't really see what's behind the bush, okay, your instinct rather, no, not just emotional instinct, but your general instinct is that if you're in the jungle and you see that moving around, your instinct would be to run away, because the story that you made up is that there's a predator behind those bushes. Okay, so when it comes to feedback, uh, we still maintain those instincts. And part of those instincts is making up stories or coming up with a narrative as quickly as we can in order for us to come up with a reaction to the situation. And few things get us in more trouble than making up stories, especially when we don't realize what's happening, or that's what we're doing, right? We're immediately coming up with stories about people or about situations very quickly. When you move from a guess to a strong hunch to a certainty, you create a story that guarantees curiosity will disappear. So obviously, once you have that story in your head, you eliminate the possibility for conversation, for discussion, okay, for open dialogue, because you're already fixated on what that narrative would be. That happens when the story you have made up is a classic example of trying to judge what the intention is of the other person or what is over the net. And sometimes we fall into confirmation bias that the data we've selected actually fit a negative narrative about the person. We're not trying to be more circumspect with the same situation. Okay. And we're just looking, doing some piecemeal connection of whatever available data to confirm our hypothesis. Okay. Now, even if you ask something at that point, the fact that you already have a mental story or a narrative about the other person, it's not an honest question. Okay. It's not even a rhetorical question, perhaps. I mean, you've already thrown out dialogue out of the window, right? And it's not going to encourage any open discussion, which would lead to defensiveness. Now, once we make up a story, it's so easy for us to make attribution. And we see that. Um, and, attributions and labels, while they have their advantages, they actually oversimplify, and they can be dangerously reductionist. We don't see things holistically or give ourselves the opportunity to appreciate the bigger picture. Okay. They create a specific lens about another person. So, what to do with this instinct that we have, which was essential for our survival? But now, when it comes to dealing with other people, it becomes a problem, right? Now, coming up with stories immediately. Well, you have many options, right? One is to reflect what it is about your counterpart, okay, that bothers you or makes you annoyed, right? You reflect. Could it be something deeper? Is it because you're envious or jealous? Okay. Or is it because you're overwhelmed at that moment? Or is it because you've had wrong expectations? Okay. Noticing your thought process is actually an important place to start. A reminder that much of becoming more interpersonally competent actually requires mindfulness. Now, another option is to actually make use of our instinct in doing quick storytelling to come up with a positive explanation or trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, okay? Coming up with an alternative story. So, if your initial story was somewhat negative, then condition yourself to try to think of an alternative story. Creating an alternative story might actually introduce enough uncertainty to move you back into a curiosity space. Remember, curiosity actually helps build conversation. The moment that we've lost that curiosity, we've actually fixed our mind as to what the other person is intending, and that really destroys any conversation. Now, another option is to actually simply name what you're doing, what you are doing, and not what the other person is doing. Okay. So you can say, "Yeah, I'm noticing that you often talk a lot about what you do and how well it's all going. That bothers me." Okay. So that bothers me. And I'm sorry to say that it leads me in making up a story about you that you're self promoting or self aggrandizing because you're insecure. You can say all that. You can just be honest about yourself. Remember, when you express certain things, you can't really say what the other person is intending, okay? That's crossing over the net. You can just say what you're feeling right now as of the moment. And you can actually tell them the current process you're in, right? So that helps them understand that's what you're going through. And that's also part of self disclosure. In any case, these are methods or techniques that you can do in order to pump the brakes a bit on our instinct, good as they are, our instinct on trying to come up with a story as quickly as we can.